Greetings to the Temple of Understanding. Greetings to the wonderful farmers from different cultures who have gathered here, showing so clearly that every faith instructs us to care for the earth. Every faith instructs us to have compassion for all beings. And for me, compassion for all beings include one, those beings that co-create with us in the universe, and all beings who need the food. Food is the connector. Food is the currency. And that is why it is sacred. Food is the energy. Very often when we talk about climate change and energy, we forget, A, that the first energy is food. Two, that even the fossil energy is fossilized food, fossilized plants, fossilized animals. And three, that an industrial agriculture, which I call a war agriculture, because every chemical in it came from war. Its mindset, a militarized mindset of being at war with the planet, at war with the earth, at war with farmers, at war with insects, at war with microbes, at war with the plants that have to be killed by glyphosate. This war mentality is what has brought us to the multiple crises that we face today. The climate crisis, 50% based on the way we process, produce, distribute food, have the food miles, have the packaging, have the 10 units for producing 1 unit, add the fact that we have 100 units to produce 1 unit of protein in factory farming. Worse, when we take industrial food production, you add it to industrial processing, we are talking about 100 or 1,000 or even 100,000 units of energy to create bad energy that makes us sick. 75% of the sickness of the planet comes from industrial agriculture as war. 75% of the sickness of human beings is rooted in industrial, ultra-processed food system. Where did we go wrong when all the faiths teach us that food is sacred? Food is the sacrament. Taking care of the earth is our sacred duty. Saving seeds is our sacred duty. Taking care of the hungry is our sacred duty. I think we went wrong with 4 interruptions and disruptions. The first, of course, is colonialism, which was an agricultural system of making the third world produce raw materials with slaves captured from the South. I mean, the origin of the Black population in North America is slavery. The land grab of North America is for cotton plantations. All of my country's colonialism can be traced back to that empire. The second rupture is, as I said, after the wars, the industry that had created chemicals to kill human beings now said, why don't we just say you can't grow food without these chemicals? And they totally changed our mindset. The next was they said, oh my gosh, how can we let seeds grow on their own? How can we let farmers have their own seeds? We must make money out of seed. We must patent seed. We must genetically engineer seed. And I always say GMO in the logic of those who are patenting seed is God move over. We will play God. We will take rents from creation. And now there's another rupture taking place where the poison cartel that grew from the labs of Hitler took over our agriculture, created the GMOs, is now partnering with big tech to basically say, no, you won't even have your own food. You won't grow your food. You won't have your land. You won't have your seed. You won't have your food. And worse, you won't have your mind. First, they declared the soil is empty and said fertilizers help make food grow. Then they said the seed is empty. Without our toxic GMO, BT cotton, herbicide resistant, we can't have seed. Now, they're saying your minds are empty. You don't know. So this moment of history is a historic moment for not just evolution. It's a historic moment for every faith, because every faith has in it instructions about care for the earth. I have now worked on agriculture since 1984, even though I began my life as a quantum physicist. And I have learned in these many years that agriculture means care for the land, the culture of the care for the land. It has stopped being agriculture now. It is war. So growing good food, feeding people is the highest dharma according to all Indian texts, from the Vedas and the Upanishads to the Mahabharats and the Ramayans. Most people don't realize these are texts about how to grow good food, how to give good food. That is your duty of being on earth, because the food makes us. And growing food to serve all of creation is our duty for being on earth as earth beings. We are earth beings. We will not be human without being part of the soil. That's why the word humus, soil, is the root of the word human. And because we have Shani here with us, the word Adam, another word for being human, comes from Adamus, the word for soil. In all our texts in India, we are the soil. And our ancient text on the earth, the first Veda, says, you, earth, are our mother. We are your children. We will not harm you. We will take care of you. We will love you. We will love all your beings, and you will give to us in abundance. So my work over the last 37 years has shown the more we care for the earth, the more abundance we have. And there's a constant puzzle in people's minds. Two puzzles. First puzzle, how do we scale up? It's the wrong term, right? You don't scale up in webs of life. You scale out. And that means our circles of compassion, our circles of inclusion must grow. The second is we have to regenerate. And to regenerate, we have to first admit the earth is not dead. You know, the fossil paradigm went hand in hand with the dead earth paradigm. And then you just have to keep pouring fossil fuels. We are eating oil. We are shipping with oil. And that's why I wrote Soil, Not Oil. What we have to know is the earth is living. You give a little bit of food to the soil organisms, and they give you abundance. They give you more food, 5 times more photosynthesis. You let the pollinators flourish, they give you 1/3 the food. So the web of life actually is our co-creators. We've got to give up the assumption of us being conquerors, masters, owners of the earth and of plants and animals, to being members of an earth family, co-creators. And the only place we can enter the web of life is through food. There is no other place. The only place is food, growing of food, sharing of food. And I'm so happy in this panel is a whole new generation from across the world, cultures, showing that everyone is waking up to this. Everyone is waking up to the fact that we have to regenerate the seed and biodiversity. We have to regenerate the soil and the soil organisms and the soil biodiversity. We have to regenerate our health and the biodiversity in our gut. We have to regenerate our communities. And we will only be able to do all of this when we regenerate compassion. Good farming, local farming is compassion in action. And as my work has shown, it is the single biggest solution to climate catastrophe. 50% emissions come from an industrial agriculture. In the green leaf, we have the amazing technology to take the carbon dioxide, put it into the soil, and meantime give us food. So we have to intensify biodiversity, we have to intensify the green leaf. That is what we have to do. Intensify photosynthesis, intensify ecological, biological production, not chemical intensification. We've got the wrong terms. So therefore, faith can guide us back to the path that was disrupted by war, militarism, greed. We can shift to a path of peace, non-violence, compassion, and care, and we will have abundance and good food for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vandana, for kicking us off. And indeed, we are thrilled here to have this very diverse panel, which will include a Native American perspective, a Christian perspective, a Jewish perspective. But let me introduce the first of our speakers, who will be Clayton Harvey. Clayton, have you got your connection? Wonderful. Clayton Harvey is a 5th generation farmer using gained ancestral knowledge meshed with modern day farming techniques. He's committed to educating, growing, and fostering young Apache farmers on Fort Apache Reservation in East Central Arizona. He manages a fully functioning farm that delivers high quality produce to schools and other facilities while promoting personal and cultural health through agriculture. So welcome, Clayton. We'd love to hear your thoughts for up to about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this panel. It is a great honor, and this right now in Apache land, we're gearing up for harvesting, and it seems like our house is a huge mess right now. So if you see a little clutter in the background, it's because, you know, we're trying to make room for all the nuts, for the corn, for the teas. So right now there's just a lot of things happening, and this is not something new. This is something that we as Apache people have doing since time immemorial. And we have been instructed by our creator to be stewardships of the land and caretakers of the land. And in doing so, we plant our crops. And we believe when we plant crops that we're massaging care of our Mother Earth, we're putting back into the ground. And so we're really I guess we really take to heart when it comes to growing and using the instructions that our ancestors have left with us. Something that I realized that the other day was that I've been doing this my whole life. This is something that I've been growing up doing. And I resented it growing up. I just did not like it. There are times when, you know, we live in Arizona, and it's the monsoons come around July, and they end around late September. And, you know, it's in the midst of when we harvest our corn and our other seeds. And I remember growing up and being forced to wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, like 6 or 7 years old, and we have these little makeshift out of logs and stuff, and that's where we would hang our corn to dry up. And so we would be forced in the middle of the night to go and collect all this corn. And we would think, you know, what child is up at 2 o'clock in the morning doing this? You know, this is not right. This, you know, just like every reservation kid's dream is that, you know, when we turn 18, we're going to leave and we're never going to come back. And so, you know, that's what I did. You know, I left, and and boy, did I have an identity crisis when I was out and about. I remember standing there. I was out in Northern California, and we were at the movies, and all my friends went to the restroom, and I had everybody's snacks and their drinks. And this guy comes up to me, and he's like right in my face, and he's like, "Are you native?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm native." And he asked, "Well, what are you?" And I'm like, "I'm Apache." And he's like, "What do you mean I'm Apache?" He's like, "Did you know that your people fought against the strongest army in the whole world? That strongest army wanted every man, woman, and child that was Apache wiped off the face of the earth. And yet you're standing here." "Yeah, I'm Apache." So, you know, it really spoke to me. And when I came home, it that conversation, that confrontation that I had with the guy at the theater really spoke to me. And I saw things in a different way. I saw the land differently. I saw the people. It was like a whole eye opener. And that's when this project started. It's called Ndabikia. Ndabikia is translated into the People's Farm in Apache. I was like, hey, you know, I used to do that growing up, so, you know, I'm not doing anything right now. And so I went and started volunteering, and eventually took on the role as one of the staff members there, started teaching classes, and there it seems like I found myself. If you look at, my outer image, you see scars on my arms. There's a lot of hurt that you might see, but deep inside, there's a lot of healing happening. When, I went to the fields, and I stuck my hands into the dirt, it brought me back to my childhood, to when my grandparents are still around. And it really warmed my heart. The thoughts of, why did I want to leave this place? Why was I resenting this place? Why was I so shameful of my skin color? Why did I want to be something else when I could be? Reservation life isn't all that great. It's not all that great. There's a lot of bad things happening, but there's a lot of good things happening, and there's a lot of farmland that's available. And what my passion is and what I do is I help foster, grow, and educate young Apache farmers, giving them the tools that I received growing up, with the intent of instilling them with knowledge and wisdom, so that they can have the confidence and go out in the world and conquer and do what they want to do. Because not everybody is meant to be a farmer, but when you have the tools of your identity, when you know who you are, not from what a textbook or what you read from another person's perspective, but when you're taught from your own people who you are, you there's something that blows up inside you. And so that's my passion. That's why I do what I do. That's my spiritual connection with farming, and that's how I connect with my community, with my people, with my, not just my people, but everybody in society, because we all have experienced some kind of trauma, and we all need to heal. We all need to develop really healthy um, coping skills. And when it comes to me being as an Apache, as an indigenous person, farming is my mechanism of healing. Farming is my doctor. Farming is when it comes to therapy, that's where I go. It's the cheapest therapy that you can ever have. With that, I am so grateful that, I can say that farming saved my life, that my culture brought me back to the roots of where I come from. And because of that, I'm here today. And I celebrate my life every day. I celebrate my life. We pray with in the mornings, we stand to the east before the sun comes up, and we have pollen from cattail. And I bless myself every morning because I'm grateful to be here, and I pray for a great day. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to the next person. But thank you, and Ashok.
Thank you so much, Clayton. Really appreciate your heart-opening comments about all the interconnected layers of farming and healing and nourishment and food. Really, thank you for joining us today. And next, we're going to hear from Shani Ming of the Jewish Farmer Network. She's the executive director of that network, and she currently resides on a farm on the east end of Long Island. She is a seasoned farmer, experiential Jewish educator, and the executive director of the Jewish Farmer Network. Welcome, Shani, please.
Thank you so much, Grove, and thank you, Dr. Vandana, Shiva, and Edgar and Clayton for being in conversation with me. I'm so grateful to be here, and this is like such an important conversation to be having. So I am also the founder of this network of Jewish farmers, and the reason for its founding is to provide our farmers with the resources and the community to build cultural identity at the intersection of vocation and tradition. So Judaism at its core is an agrarian tradition. What we like to say is that before we were the people of the book, in sign language, when you talk about Jewish people, there's some of this because we're called the people of the book. Before we were the people of the book, we were the people of the land. The Jewish people enacted our faith and our relationship with the divine through our relationship with the land, through our agriculture, through our tithings, through our relationship with those in need, and through agricultural sacrifice. As a diasporized, forcibly diasporized over and over and over again, people that have been spread to the far corners of the earth, our connection to the earth and our agrarian identity has been kind of dusted and painted over with many layers of being merchants and being money launderers, and not money launderers, money handlers, right? So in like Christian societies, handling money was considered dirty. And so they made the Jews do it. And so there are all these layers of diaspora and of limitations of not being able to own land in some places that has separated us culturally from our connection to the land. And so here we are in our year 5781, and we are in this moment of rediscovering our connection with the land. And we're asking ourselves the question of what does it mean to be, for much of us in North America on Turtle Island, what does it mean for us to be modern Jewish farmers, reclaiming our agricultural identity, reclaiming our agricultural wisdom on land that isn't ours? And what can we learn from this agricultural system, this agricultural tradition that has been passed down to us? So there is this idea that a Jewish person is Jewish in the way that they walk through time. A Jew is nothing more than the cycle of the seasons and the way that we move with the world. And so we're breathing new life into the harvest festivals that anchor the Jewish calendar. So we have 3 harvest festivals that keep us on time, that keep us tapped in, that keep us grateful for what the world is giving to us, that keep us grateful for our own work and for the work of the land. And so taking this holiday, which I grew up in an Orthodox community and I grew up with this story passed down of like, who did I see around me? A Jewish people. My role models were doctors and lawyers and small business owners. And I didn't know anyone who was Jewish and farming. And we would sit in the sukkah in these temporary structures on the Jewish Harvest Festival of Sukkot, which is coming up in a few weeks. And there would be plastic grapes hanging from the sukkah. A harvest festival, plastic grapes hanging from the sukkah. What are we doing? Why are we not celebrating the bounty of our moment? And so we're giving people back this gift of Jewish agricultural wisdom. And in so doing, we are helping to connect their story as modern Jewish farmers to the story of the Jewish people. And we're saying you don't have to look towards other traditions. You have something that is innately yours that can inform your work as a farmer, right? Clayton talked about knowing who you are. This is about knowing who you are. We teach this class called Jews and Land that traces the Jewish history of our relationship with land throughout time since diasporization. And this class was inspired by a conversation with a Black farmer to whom we said, how can we be in better solidarity with the Black community? And he said, you need to know your own story first. So here we are investigating our own story, getting a firm grounding in who we are so that we can show up for other people. We talk about mobilizing Jewish wisdom to build a more just and a more regenerative food system for all. The Jewish agricultural ethic revolves around the sacred cycles of 7. On Monday night at sundown is the Jewish holiday of Rosh Hashanah, one of 4 Jewish New Years that anchor the year. And we're starting the Shemitah year. Every 7 years, we have Shemitah. We have a sabbatical and a rest for the land. This is an ancient and visionary system for regenerating soil, community, self, and soul. Every 7 years, we let our land lie fallow. Every 7 years, we take down our fences and we let our land become a commons for everyone to come and glean. Every 7 years, debts are forgiven. And this is this ancient system of regeneration that we have forgotten and that we think of now today as mere metaphor. And so how can we take this thing that has been seen as mere metaphor and bring it into practical application? This, the sacred cycles of 7, of people resting every 7 days on Shabbat and resting the land every 7 years, is the greatest gift that we received as a people from our tradition, from the Torah, from our God. What we got was Shabbat. What we got is the sacred cycles of 7. And this is our greatest gift that was given to us and that we can give back out. How can we learn to rest our land? How can we learn to rest ourselves in a way that keeps us and our community nourished? Yeah, so that's what I have to say so far. Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you, Shani. Very powerful calling in your words. Thank you. Edgar, next we'll hear from you. Edgar is the co-founder of the Freedom Farm community, and he is a commissioned ruling elder candidate in the Hudson River Presbytery of New York. After retiring from the fire department of New York after 20 years of service, he's doing pulpit supply teaching, and on the farm, he is growing organic produce to share with people in need, to teach youth and young adults sustainable agriculture practices and how to live out one's faith. And he does this in deep partnership with his wife, Anne. Edgar Hayes, thank you so much. Welcome, please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the blessing of being a co-spirator. Our spirits are connected, and our spirits are in this union right now, which is awesome. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. And I want to start with the idea of imagining a cucumber thinking it's a watermelon, or imagine corn thinking it's an apple. I have the blessedness of being able to follow such great speakers and to glean from what they're saying, and the theme that I'm getting from all this is knowing who you are. And if we see ourselves as seeds, what type of seed are we? Who are we? In understanding our identity. What Vandana was saying earlier, that the corporations see the seed as something empty that they have to fill, but the seed it began in my tradition, my Christian roots, and that it began in the garden when God created seed. You have, the things that were created by God, not knowing who they were and having trouble in life. Because if you don't know who you are, someone is bound to say, this is who you are, which is, for the most part, would be wrong. If you look at the history of the African American in America, trying to acclimate to being white, and that had its repercussions of not loving oneself, because you don't know who you are. And until we can all identify with our seed, who we are, we won't flourish. And with that seed, we have soil, we have the earth. We were made for the earth. We were made for the soil. Through that connection, we scale out with all of our sisters and brothers, but we have to understand our connection. We have to understand our placement and how God wants us to interact with one another. If anything, anyone learned from 2020 is that isolation does not work. There's a ton of mental illness that is growing from the 2020 because of the isolation. If anyone has eyes to see and ears to hear, that's one thing I want people to understand, that we need each other. We have to be in community. We have to be connected to one another. And that's how our roots grow in the soil. It doesn't grow straight down; it grows out. And my tomato seed connects with my cucumber seed, and my pepper seed connects with my basil. It's all connected, interwoven, and you have more when you have more diversity in your in your soil, that biodynamic diversity and everything working together and trying to be in symmetry and harmony with flowers and bugs and all these other things. That's when you have a flourishing. That's when you have a system that was created rather than in this monoculture. One thing I cannot stand it. When you have flowers, the beauty of the wildflowers and the roses and the tulips and the colors and everything working together, it's so beautiful. If you've ever witnessed that, and if you're seeing the rainbow, imagine just all red rainbow or all blue rainbow. It's hard to contemplate such a thing, that it's not what God wanted. And yet you have people saying diversity is bad, and it's and having immigrants from other countries come to America is bad, and they don't understand life. They don't understand God either. So what we do at Freedom Farm, first and foremost, with the young people who come, we have to help them to understand that they are not, depending on where they're coming from, if they're coming from an environment that is deprived of certain resources, you are not, your environment does not define who you are, because you're a seed, you're already defined. You are a seed that has been defined already. And it is that placement that will allow you to flourish and grow. Is it fruit that says, this is mine, gimme, gimme, gimme? Or is it fruit where, that you share? I have too much fruit. Here's some fruit. If you don't have any, I have 3, you have 0, here's 1 or 1.5, and we all have. The growth that we can produce when we produce food, there is enough to feed the world. And don't let anyone ever say there's not enough food in this world to feed the world. There is, if we grow the way we are supposed to, we can feed the world 100 times over. And I'll leave it at that.
Edgar, thank you so much. And your ending point about how are we going to feed everyone from a spiritual perspective and a practical one leads into what I'm afraid will need to be our closing round, with each of you having a minute and a half to speak. One of the practical questions is, how do we, starting from the profound positions of faith and engagement with tradition and support and spirit that you've all indicated, how do we scale this up?
Not out.
Scale it out please, comments on that issue of how do we scale this up or out at this moment in time? Clayton, just 1 minute of some closing remarks on how we're going to spread this out.
Well, those are some powerful words. So many times here on my reservation, there's a lot of barriers between faiths. And I think what we need to do is clash those barriers and to look at the greater point of what we're all working for. And that's finding what connects us, and that connectedness is through spirituality. It's not through pushing one another's faith or beliefs on one another, but having that common sense of believing in something and having spiritual faith in that, and using that as a tool and unifying ourselves and coming against these huge monocrop industrial farmers. Seeds are another big issue. We need to all work together and put a copyright on our heirloom and indigenous seeds, because right now we're on the verge of losing all of our seeds. And and then also, just unifying us and working together and fostering and really taking the key in our young people, making them a priority when it comes to fostering and growing young farmers, because they are the next generation that will be taking on the lead in this, and they play a critical and important role in this. And so really sharing that knowledge, not keeping it with ourselves, but spreading it like wildfire. So
thank you very much. Shani, to you for a closing comment.
I really like this idea of spreading out, not up. And something that's coming to mind, something that we say a lot in our work is the idea of if you can see it, you can be it. And so my generation, we didn't grow up with Jewish farming role models. Like, I didn't know anyone who was Jewish and a farmer growing up. So it was a huge cognitive leap for me and my peers to get there. And it felt like being torn asunder. It felt like I can be a farmer or I can be Jewish, but I can't be both. And so by putting forth and celebrating the stories of modern Jewish farmers, what we're doing is offering up for the next generation a whole diverse catalog of what it can look like to be a modern Jewish farmer, to be Orthodox Jewish farmer, to be a queer modern Jewish farmer, to be a convert, to be a Jew of color, to be Ashkenazi, to be Sephardi, to be Mizrahi, to be our full diversity. And so we are therefore encouraging the next generation, like Clayton was saying, like, we got to invest in the next generation of farmers, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it by giving them the role models to step into this role of small-scale agriculture.
Thank you so much, Shani. Edgar, to you for just a brief closing comment. Thank you.
Like Shani and Clayton said, we have to rely on our youth, our young people, our young folk, in teaching them that the importance of farming and the importance of land, acquiring land, holding on to land, and using that land for the purposes of sharing and growing food. Without land, it's going to be difficult. I wish everyone could, grow food in the city. How do we change the values of city from going to the supermarket to connecting with a farmer if you don't have land, or going to the farmer's market if you have access to it, and a lot of people don't have access. So how do we make those connections with one another? That scaling out and growing in that sense of making more connections to people and training up our children.
Vandana, back to you.
Yeah. So the first fact is 80% of the food today that we eat is grown from small farms, not from the large industrial farms which produce commodities. So how do we scale it out? Grow more small farms, grow more gardens, and reduce the subsidies that go to make a totally ecologically unviable, financially unviable, health unviable, climate unviable agriculture that's messing up the planet and our health. $700 billion of subsidies, that are money. It's our hard-earned taxes. I think the biggest thing we can do is start withdrawing the public money that supports the toxic agriculture. The second way to scale it out is what we are doing in this panel. Yeah, it's showing that there is a total consensus across diversity of faiths. That the first law is care for the earth. The second law is grow food in abundance. The third law is share that abundance. There will be no climate crisis. There will be no hunger crisis. There will be no chronic disease epidemics. And finally, how do we scale it out? We've got to name the hijack of the UN system and the UN Food Summit, the Climate Summit, exactly the same logic. The Biodiversity Summit, these were laws meant to protect the earth. These were laws meant to protect indigenous cultures, and they're being hijacked. UN begins with a statement, we the people. It is now we the corporations will tell you what to do with our toxic science, our toxic agriculture, and you will have farming without farmers, and we will give you food without farms. The toxic acceleration will continue. This is our moment to rise in our diversity of faiths, in our diversity of cultures, with our diversity of seeds. And my work has shown the more diversity there is, the more food there is in the world, because the diversity helps each other. It's mutuality, it's synergy. We really need what Gandhi did in his time against the salt laws, against the forced cultivation of indigo, what Martin Luther King did, what Nelson Mandela did. We do not accept satyagraha, the force of truth of the earth, the truth of the seed, the truth of the soil, the truth of our different faiths, which incidentally are the true ecological science. This contradiction between here's tradition and faith that's unscientific, and here is science, is so totally wrong. True ecological science works according to the laws of nature. All faiths respect nature and talk about growing food. It's only a pseudoscience generating millions and billions, which pretends that spreading poisons is scientific, pretends that killing life grows food. How can death be the source of food, which is a living system? Life has to be the source of life. Death cannot be the source of life. And this is where we all have to unite across not just faiths, from the farmers to the consumers. I think all of us are doing that. We know a farmer by themselves gets nowhere. Someone eating cannot get anywhere without a farm. But everywhere it's about interconnectedness, 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 our oneness in the miracle of creation.